The Miami John Doe, identified as Ronald Gilchrist. Ronald lived at 6933 Bonner Avenue in Clearwater, Florida. He left from his home on October 28, 1980, and it's reported the reason he left is he was doing a favor for his in-laws. He was driving to pick them up at the airport, and he was supposed to transport them then to Marco Island in Florida. The trip itself wasn't super short. It's about 295 miles one way, or about 475 kilometers. We know that he departed his home in Clearwater as expected, driving a 1977 Ford. They know that he called a family member from a restaurant payphone in Mulberry, Florida. Mulberry, Florida is not quite at the halfway mark, though why he called and who hasn't been disclosed. There's a lot of articles out there on this case, but they all pretty much say the same minimal thing. If more information appears, it will show up as an editor's note on the screen. I always do a little more research as I'm syncing up the photos with my audio. All we really know is that he completely disappeared and no one knew where he was. If his car was found, there's no note of this. His COD indicates that he was shot. It's horrible not only in that they wiped his entire name, but then his family had to suffer all this time without knowing what happened. There's just a certain injustice built into this, and so they really need people to come forward if they know anything at all about this case. It's noted that the family has been identified, but they haven't made a statement so far. Ronald Gilchrist went unidentified for 42 years. Had he lived, he would be 72 years old today. The Clairborne County John Doe, identified as Jerry Harrison. In August of 1986, some hunters were walking along an abandoned trail located in the Caney Valley area of Clairborne County, Tennessee. It was here that hunters located skeletal remains, and it prompted them to immediately contact the Clairborne County Sheriff's Office. And they in turn contacted the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations. The John Doe was wearing dark jeans, size 30 by 20, gold socks, and a white t-shirt with green sleeves in a size medium. They would estimate the man was around 30 to 40, and that he'd been there about 6 months. The COD was attributed to a GS wound. The man was entered into the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System in 2008. In 2015, the authorities would move to submit to the University of North Texas Center for Human Identification samples of his remains in hopes of getting DNA. And they did get it, but that's not the kind of DNA that they do genetic searches with. This specific DNA is uploaded into CODIS, and then it's compared with various samples that come through. So when this didn't work, they had to resubmit in hopes of getting DNA that was suitable for genetic genealogy. They began getting hits and leads off the genealogical research, and generally how it works is that they identify a more distant relative, approach them, and they start working forward. Sometimes they'll get a sample and realize it's not the right branch, and then they go and work on another branch. So it's really extensive, and that's why it takes so long. Eventually, however, it led to 2 individuals who would tell investigators that they had a brother they had not seen or heard from in 4 decades. They provided their own DNA, which then confirmed they had finally found Jerry Harrison, who was just 28 years old when his life was taken. It's unknown, or at least not reported, why or how he ended up in Clairborne County, Tennessee, from his home in Little Rock, Arkansas. The 2 locations are a distance of about 1,116 kilometers or 631 miles. They now need people to come forward who know something about his life and can help break the case as to what may have happened to him. If anyone has any information, you can call 1-800-TBI-FIND. Not only does he deserve his name, he deserves justice. You can always leave an anonymous message. Jerry Harrison went unidentified for 37 years. Had he lived, he would be 65 years old today. The Llano Jane Doe, identified as Pamela Mitchell. On June 14, 1991, a woman was discovered in Llano, California. She was wearing blue jeans and a pink and beige colored Gitano brand long-sleeve sweatshirt. She had in stud earrings and they were set with a clear stone. Someone had dug a shallow hole and then covered her with a tarp. A wooden slat was at the end of the tarp, so it's thought that maybe the tarp itself was used in rear covering on a military type of vehicle. As a result, she was found pretty quickly, and her COD is not listed. They believed she was a black female who was around 30 to 45, estimating her at 5'1" to 5'3", or 155 to 160 centimeters, with short, curly brown or black hair. Her weight was likely 160 to 220 pounds, or 73 to 100 kilograms. We know now that the woman was 31 years old. On October 6, 1990, Pamela left her home on the 6300 block of Lancashire Boulevard in Los Angeles. She told the people at home she was just heading down the street to see a friend, and then she just disappeared. There's no indication of who she went to see or if that person acknowledged her arrival. While she went missing from Los Angeles, she was found in Llano, but that's not very far away. It's just about 12 miles or 19 kilometers. Unfortunately, the investigation has hit a brick wall. If anyone knows anything, please call the number on the screen. Pamela Ann Mitchell went unidentified for 32 years. She actually went unidentified for 1 year longer than she was allowed to spend on this earth. Had she lived the life she deserved, she would be 63 years old today. The Belle Glade John Doe, identified as Douglas Lynn Streeter. This story begins in 1976 in Belle Glade, Florida, and this was off State Highway number 827 near the Talisman Farms area. Upon examination, it was determined he was a muscular man with an overbite who was likely 21 to 35. They believed he was either white or Native American. They placed his height at around 5'6" to 5'8", which is about 167 to 173 centimeters. He had brown hair and brown eyes. They also noted he had cartilage damage to his knees and lower back. He was wearing a Timex watch with the initials LJ carved on the underside. This is one of those things that sometimes makes identification hard, because it's natural to assume those were probably his initials, and as it turns out, they were not. His COD was attributed to a GS, but there's no clues as to who did this or why. The magic of Othram Labs is responsible for this one also. We know that while the watch had the initials LJ, his name was actually Douglas Streeter, and he was from Bryan, Ohio. Douglas had traveled to Florida from home with a group of friends either in March or April of 1976. It appears they had been staying at the Spanish Oak Apartments in Boca Raton, and this was the last place that he was seen. Douglas went by the nickname of Strut, and he had just seemingly disappeared. They did say that he had ties to North Adams, Michigan, and for a time there was a thought he might have headed back there. In reality, we know now he was found 6 months later, 60 miles or 96 kilometers away from where he went missing. Sadly, both his parents and his brother passed away during the years it took to find his name, so they never knew what happened to him. Now that he's finally been identified, the authorities are looking for a way to find out who did this, and they need someone to come forward with information. Please call the number on the screen if you know anything. Douglas Lynn Streeter went unidentified for 46 years. Had he lived, he would be 75 years old today. Huge thanks for watching all the way to the end, and a big thanks to all of you who consistently like and comment on the videos. Whether you leave a full comment or an emoji, it makes a huge difference. So if you consistently watch my videos, maybe take a moment to subscribe. It's a huge push toward the videos being suggested to new people. The next goal is 20,000. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other.